Hello everyone, I'm Edwin. I'm so happy to see you here again. So there are different types of assets in the world, and the way to find out their value can be quite different. The most common type of asset is income generating assets. For example, we can find out the intrinsic value of a stock by discounting company's free cash flow based on the company's risk exposure. We can also find out bond value by discounting the interest and principal of the bond based on its credit rating. In addition, real property can generate rental income, and a taxi license can also generate taxi rental income. So since the asset itself can generate income, it should have its intrinsic value. And this type of asset should definitely be the main investment for general investor. The second type of asset is currency, whose value depends on its role as a medium of exchange. It can be affected by monetary policy, the local economic condition, and the other macro factors like import and export data. So therefore, it's difficult to objectively measure its intrinsic value. However, because currency itself has low volatility, and also foreign currency can provide pretty high interest to investors. So in the past, many investors was interested in investing in foreign currency for its high interest rate and relatively low risk exposure. And the risk mainly comes from the depreciation of foreign currency. But I should say that I'm not a fan of foreign currency. The third type is commodities, such as oil, cocoa bean, copper, iron, and etc. So this kind of commodity is mainly used as an intermediate good for producing final consumer products. Therefore, its price is highly affected by supply and demand, such as weather, economic growth. As this type of information is very specific, so investors are mostly professionals or users of those commodities. So I don't really recommend general investor to invest on them. But I would say that I don't want to include gold and silver in this type. Although we usually get gold and silver as commodities, but I would like to talk about gold and silver in other categories. The fourth type is collectibles, which includes a wide range of products from sports shoes, stamps, red wine, branded watches, to expensive collectibles like famous painting, antique. I still remember I have purchased a 150 banknotes for investment. So how much is it worth right now? If you personally enjoy on collecting those products and feel happy in watching them in your home, as a hobby that can help you to make money in some extent, I think this alternative investment is quite good, because many times hobbies would require you to spend some money, but if this hobby can actually have a chance to generate income to you or generate some money to you, why not? But because value of collectibles highly depends on the value given by other collectors, and there are also many fake products outside, so the risk is considerable and may only be good for investing a small amount of money, even if you are very into it. Finally, the asset type that I want to talk about today is the asset that provides the function of storage of value. The typical example is gold. Although gold has its industrial values and production value, its value mainly coming from the function of storage of value. For example, many governments keep a certain amount of gold as reserve, and also why people like to buy gold jewelry, because it can help them to store their money, and also some investors like to even invest directly in gold bar and then put them at home or in a safe. So it's a good investment. The foreign figures indicate the price movement of gold in the past 100 years, from $500 100 years ago to $1,800 right now. The annual appreciation is only 1.3%, which is extremely low when we compare with the returns in stock markets, property markets, or even with inflation. It's still so low. But if we just take a look on its performance since 2000 years, it is quite amazing. So how is good performed recently? You can see that since the middle of last year, the price of gold has continued to fall. Then we need to ask for the reason behind. To answer this question, we can take a look of the performance of other precious metals. So the following figures provide price movement of silver, aluminium, and copper during the same period. You can see that the price of aluminium and copper continued to rise even after the middle of last year, and only silver and gold are losing momentum since the middle of last year. Then, what are the similarities between gold and silver? Right, gold and silver are an asset for storage of values, while copper and then aluminiums are precious metals that are used for production. We can infer that the drop in price indicates that many people start to funding out from gold and silver to somewhere since the middle of last year. Of course, some money may go to the stock market and property market, but what special thing is happening in the middle of last year? Right, Bitcoin has risen from 10,000 US dollar in the middle of last year to 60,000 US dollar last month. So one of the explanation is that investors are starting to consider using Bitcoin as a storage of value assets instead of gold. To a certain extent, it explains why almost all assets have risen in the past year, but only the price of gold and silver fell. And I'm not the only one who thinks Bitcoin is an alternative to gold. Such as Buffer partners Charles Munger. So Munger's point out that since I never buy any gold, I never buy any Bitcoin. So as an alternative to gold, what do people in the market think about Bitcoin? And let's take a look at the bearish side. In 2014, Warren Buffett said that you are going to be a lot better off owning productive assets. So just like those income generating assets over the next 50 years, then you'll be owning piece of paper or Bitcoin. Maybe Buffett is not coming from technology industry, so do not know much about Bitcoin. Let's take a look at Bill Gates' view. In 2018, Bill Gates said that I agree I would sort if there was an easy way to do it. So it's lucky that Bill Gates didn't sort it, but I think even if he sorted he's so rich, so it didn't really affect his wealth. And also, Nouriel Roubini, a very famous economist known as Dr. Doom, said that Bitcoin is just a bubble of self-fulfilling expectation. So after hearing from the bearish side, let's go to the bullish side. Wow, the leader of the side is definitely Elon Musk. So if I were his tweet, the cryptocurrency are definitely not as popular as it is right now. I even think that without his blessing, Bitcoin cannot rise above 50,000 and not need to say 60,000. And he says straightforward that I do at this point think Bitcoin is a good thing and I'm a supporter of Bitcoin. And he and his company also invest in cryptocurrencies. The second leading advocate is Catherine Wood, a rising star in the fund management industries. She believes that if institutional investors are willing to invest certain proportion in Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin can even go up to 400k to 500k. So after hearing from both sides, what is the difference between people in each side? We got fund managers on both sides, we also got tech giants on both sides, and the only difference is the generation. We can see that younger generation is usually more optimistic on Bitcoin and the older generation is more pessimistic on Bitcoin. So we can say that it is a battle between Bitcoin. So the battle between Bitcoin and versus gold is actually a battle between generation. The following story about famous professional investor Peter Schiff and his son's Twitter can make us understanding the battle deeper. When it was September 2020, Peter Schiff learned that his son Spencer bought some Bitcoin again, and he posted the following Twitter. Against my advice, my son just bought even more Bitcoin. Whose advice do you want to follow? A 57 years old experienced investor, business owner who's been an investment professional for over 30 years, or an 18 years old college freshman who's never even had a job? Unfortunately, the polling did not seem to go to the way that he expected. 80% out of 82,000 people vote for his son instead. Very embarrassing. From September of last year to the present, Bitcoin has risen a lot, but it seems that the discussion is still going on. So last month, Spencer said that Bitcoin would move from $500 to 50k as a 900 billion rise in market cap. It's just brought the assets from insignificant to moderate relevant. And then the move from 50k to 5 million as a geopolitically seismic 100 trillion rise in market cap will far more consequential than the prior 100 times price increase. But his father Peter said that Bitcoin holder beware, in case it was escape your notice, the long overdue rotation from growth to value has begun. This includes the rotation out of Bitcoin and into gold. Bitcoin has been the epitome of growth over value, and it is all growth and no value. So sell while you can. And this battle of the generation in the financial market is not only limited in the cryptocurrencies. We already observed it in the GameStop case earlier in this year between Reddit users and fund managers. After a few months, you can see that the stock price still stood more than 100 US dollars and did not fall back to 20 US dollars. So it seems that Reddit user is on the right side. And in case you do not know what's happening about GameStop, wow, you can take a look of my previous video about GameStop. So today's conclusion is that whether Bitcoin has value or not, it mainly depends on people belief after a few years later. If younger generation is right, then Bitcoin has become a new asset class for storage value. If traditional wisdom win, then the value of Bitcoin may collapse and fund will go back to gold. So which side do I take? Let me talk about it in next video. I'm Edwin. Thank you for watching today. See you next time. Bye.